The first time I met Kai Nakamura, he was telling me my rescue plan was going to get people killed. We were at 12,800 feet on the north face of Mount Evans, wind chill hitting -30, with a whiteout storm closing in and for climbers trapped above the treeline by an avalanche that had swept the main descent route. I just finished briefing my Colorado mountain rescue team on our approach when the backcountry ski patroller skied up and immediately started pointing out everything wrong with my plan. "You're going up the West Ridge," he had to shout over the wind, Asian features sharp under his goggles, black hair whipping from beneath his patrol beanie. "That slope has a moderate avalanche rating right now. One more snow load and it'll go." "We don't have another option," I shouted back. "East approach is too technical for the patient's condition. South is already avalanched, north couloir." He pulled out a laminated topo map, traced a line with his gloved finger. "Narrow, steep, but stable rock beneath the snowpack. I skied it this morning for avalanche assessment. It's passable. That route adds 90 minutes to our approach time. These patients have been exposed for hours already, and they'll be dead if your team gets swept in a secondary avalanche." His eyes met mine, dark brown, intense. "Utterly certain. I'm Kai Nakamura, Summit County Backcountry Patrol and certified avalanche forecaster. I'm telling you that West Ridge is a death trap in these conditions. Use the north couloir or don't go at all." My jaw tightened. I was the medical team leader. I'd done 50 mountain rescues in 3 years. I didn't need some ski patroller. No matter how pretty his eyes were questioning my tactical decisions in front of my team. But I also wasn't stupid. Avalanche forecasters knew snow the way I knew trauma medicine. If he was this certain, fine. North couloir. I turned to my team. "Route change. Sullivan's taking point with." I looked at the patroller. "You coming with us or just offering unsolicited advice?" His smile was sharp. "Oh, I'm definitely coming. Someone needs to make sure you don't kill yourselves." "Fantastic," I muttered, checking my medical pack. "Rodriguez, you're second." "Kai, I'll be right behind you." He was already adjusting his avalanche beacon. "Try to keep up, paramedic." That should have been my first warning that Kai Nakamura was going to be a problem. But I was too focused on the rescue to care about the cocky ski patroller, who just undermined my authority. 3 hours later, I'd realized that Kai Nakamura wasn't a problem. He was the only reason any of us survived the next 48 hours. The north couloir was exactly as bad as it looked, 60-degree ice-covered rock. Wind trying to rip us off the mountain. Visibility down to maybe 20 feet. Kai led the way with the confidence of someone who knew every inch of this terrain. Moving fast but controlled. Checking anchors and calling out hazards. We found the climbers at 13,100 feet, huddled in a shallow depression that barely counted as shelter. 3 men, 1 woman. All recreational climbers who'd been caught when the avalanche swept their descent route. Two had minor injuries, hypothermia, mild frostbite. The third guy had a suspected tib-fib fracture. The woman was the problem, head trauma, altered consciousness, probable concussion. Symptoms worsening. "We need to get her down now," I said, checking her pupils. Uneven response. Possible intracranial pressure. "She's got maybe 2 hours before this becomes critical. Storm's getting worse." Kai was checking his weather radio. "Visibility's dropping. Wind's picking up. If we try to descend now, if we don't descend now, she dies." I started prepping the woman for transport. "Rodriguez, set up the litter. We're moving." "Sullivan," Kai grabbed my arm. "Listen to me. I've been reading this mountain for 5 years. That storm front is going to hit full force in 30 minutes. If we're caught on exposed terrain during whiteout conditions with a litter patient, we all die. Not just her. All of us. Then what do you suggest?" I snapped. "We can't stay here. There's no shelter." "Yes, there is." He pulled out his map again. "Emergency bivouac station, half a click west. Built into the rock. Fully stocked, rated for parties of 8. We can shelter there until the storm passes. That could be hours." "She doesn't have ours. She has less time if we try to descend in 0 visibility and get lost or avalanched." His voice was firm. "I know you're the medical expert, but I'm the mountain expert. And the mountain says we shelter now or we die trying to descend." I looked at my patient, at my team, at the storm closing in. Every instinct screamed to get her to a hospital. But Kai's eyes held no doubt he wasn't being cautious. He was being certain. "Fine." I hated it. "But if she deteriorates, then we reassess together." He was already moving, signaling the route. "Everyone rope up. Stay tight. Watch for my markers." The half-kilometer to the bivouac felt like 5. Whiteout conditions hit halfway, their visibility dropped to nothing, wind screaming. Cold that cut through every layer. Kai navigated by memory and GPS, calling out obstacles we couldn't see until we were on top of them. When we finally reached the bivouac, a reinforced shelter built into a rock outcrop, I'd never been more grateful to be wrong. Inside, we had space, emergency supplies, protection from the wind. I stabilized my patients while Kai coordinated with base camp via radio. The news wasn't good. Storm's going to last at least 18 hours, he reported. Maybe 24? They're grounding all helicopter operations. Ground rescue can't reach us until it clears, so we're stuck here. I was monitoring the head trauma patient stable for now, but I didn't like her declining responsiveness. We're alive here, Kai corrected. If we tried to descend, he didn't finish. Didn't need to dot. My team settled into wait. The four climbers huddled together, wrapped in emergency blankets. Rodriguez and Chen handled logistics, rationing supplies, setting up sleeping areas, managing our limited resources for an extended stay, which left me and Kai in the medical corner, monitoring the critical patient. She's stable, I said, checking vitals for the third time in an hour. But I don't like this altered consciousness. If there's intracranial bleeding, can you treat it here? Kai asked. Double quotes, no. I can monitor, I can manage symptoms, but if she needs surgery, I trailed off. Then we hope she doesn't. He handed me hot water from the bivouac's emergency stove. Here. You've been working for 5 hours straight. Drink something. I took the water. Realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd hydrated. Thanks. You're welcome. He settled against the wall beside me. Look, I know I came in hot earlier, questioning your plan in front of your team. That was necessary, I admitted. You were right about the West Ridge. If we'd gone that route. I met his eyes. You saved lives today. My team's and the patient's. So thank you. Something shifted in his expression. You're welcome. And for what it's worth, your medical response was impressive. The way you triaged under pressure, stabilized multiple patients in extreme conditions. That was. He paused, searching for words. That was really something. It's my job. It's more than that. He leaned his head back against the rock. I've worked with a lot of rescue teams. Most of them are competent. You're exceptional. The way you move, the way you make decisions. It's like watching someone who's completely in their element. The compliment caught me off guard. You're not so bad yourself. That navigation and zero visibility, how did you even know where we were? Practice. And maybe a little bit of obsession. He smiled slightly. I grew up skiing these mountains. Moved here from Seattle when I was 12. Spent every winter learning the terrain. When I got older, I realized I could make a living keeping people safe on this mountain. So I did. Avalanche forecasting, and ski patrol, and mountain rescue when they need someone who knows the backcountry. He glanced at me. What about you? How does someone end up as a mountain rescue paramedic? Grew up in Boulder. Watched rescue teams work. Thought it looked like the best job in the world. I checked my patient again, still stable. Became a paramedic. Joined mountain rescue. Realized I was right. It is the best job. Even when cocky ski patrollers question your plans. Especially then. I found myself smiling. Keeps me sharp. We talked through the night while the storm raged outside. About mountains and medicine. About the specific addiction of doing dangerous work in beautiful places. About the loneliness that comes from being too dedicated to your job. To maintain normal relationships. I had a boyfriend in college, Kai said, around our 6. Both of us exhausted but too wired to sleep. He lasted for months. Said I cared more about snow conditions than him. Did you? Yeah. No hesitation. I did. He wanted someone who'd be home for dinner and plan normal weekends. I wanted someone who understood why I check avalanche reports at 3 a.m. before a big storm. I get that. I shifted position, my back aching from sitting on rock. Last guy I dated told me I was married to my job. I told him he wasn't wrong. How long did that relationship last? 3 weeks. I laughed without humor. Record time. We're disasters, Kai said. But he was smiling. Complete disasters, I agreed. But here's what I didn't know then. Sometimes the right person is the one who's just as much of a disaster as you are. Sometimes the person you meet during a crisis becomes the person you can't imagine facing the next crisis without. And over the next 18 hours trapped on a mountain, I was going to learn exactly what that felt like. Day TWOR 14th storm hadn't let up. If anything, it had gotten worse. Wind that shook even our shelter. Snow accumulation that buried the entrance every few hours. Temperature that made our emergency heaters struggle. My head trauma patient's condition had stabilized but not improved. The fracture patient was managing pain but getting restless. The hypothermia cases were recovering well. My team was tired. Supplies were holding. Morale was surprisingly decent. And Kai and I were slowly driving each other insane. In the best possible way. You're checking her pupils again, he observed. It's been an hour. You checked them 45 minutes ago. So I'm 15 minutes early. You're obsessive. You checked the weather report 6 times in the last hour. Don't talk to me about obsessive. He laughed. Fair point. We'd fallen into a rhythm, him monitoring external conditions, me monitoring patients. Both of us taking turns keeping the team's spirits up and managing resources. Rodriguez had started calling us the parents when he thought we weren't listening. I should have been annoyed. Instead, I found it kind of perfect. Can I ask you something personal? Kai said during a quiet moment. Both of us huddled near the heater. Sure. Are you seeing anyone? My heart did something complicated. No, you. No. He shifted closer just slightly, but enough that I noticed. I've been trying to figure something out for the last 14 hours. What's that? Whether you're as attractive as you seem or if it's just the competence thing. You know, watching someone be excellent at their job. I turned to look at him. His dark eyes were serious despite the lightness in his tone. Have you figured it out? Not yet. His shoulder pressed against mine. But I'm thinking it might be both. The competence and the attractive. Which is, he paused. Complicated. Why complicated? Because we're stuck on a mountain in a storm. Because you're leading a rescue op and I'm supposed to be providing avalanche support. Because in 12 hours we'll probably never see each other again. He met my eyes. And because I really want to kiss you. And I'm trying to figure out if that's the altitude talking or something real. The honesty gutted me. It's not the altitude. No. I lean closer. I've been trying to figure out the same thing. If you're the smart and competent and attractive normally, or if it's just the crisis situation. And also both. I was close enough now to see the way his pupils dilated. The slight parting of his lips. Kai, I should tell you I'm terrible at relationships. I work 80-hour weeks. I miss everything from mountain callouts. I've been told I care more about my patients than people, do you? Sometimes. Yeah, that's not terrible. His hand found mine between us. That's dedicated. And maybe you just haven't met someone who understands. Have you? Met someone who understands. Matey. His thumb traced circles on my palm. Someone who also works insane hours doing dangerous mountain work. Someone who gets why checking weather reports at 3 a.m. matters. Someone who, I kissed him. Right there in that bivouac shelter with my team 20 feet away and patients sleeping nearby. And a storm trying to tear the mountain apart outside. His lips were cold at first, then warm, his hand coming up to my jaw while mine found his waist. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. That was, Kai started. Yeah, we should probably not. Not here. Not now. Later? Definitely later. We sat there holding hands, shoulders pressed together, while the storm raged and our team slept and something impossible started building between us. Asterisk, the storm finally broke at our 22. The sky cleared to brutal blue, wind died to manageable levels, and base camp radioed that helicopter extraction was possible. We prepped for evacuation, packaging patients, securing gear, coordinating with the incoming helicopter. Kai handled communications with Summit Command while I managed medical priorities. The extraction took 3 trips, patients first with me attending, then my team, then Kai and his gear. By the time we all reached base camp, I'd been awake for 36 hours and running on adrenaline and altitude. And the memory of Kai's mouth on mine. Good work up there, Sullivan, my supervisor said, clapping my shoulder. Textbook rescue under extreme conditions. Wasn't just me. I looked across the staging area to where Kai was debriefing with Ski Patrol Command. Backcountry Patrol saved our asses. Multiple times. Nakamura is good. One of the best avalanche forecasters in the region. He followed my gaze. You'd have worked well together. Yeah. Understatement of the century. We did. I was filing my incident report when Kai found me. Both of us finally out of mountain gear and back in normal clothes. He looked different in jeans and a fleece jacket, less like a mountain specialist. More like a guy I might meet at a coffee shop. Still devastatingly attractive. Hey, he said. Hey, I saved my report. All clear with your team? Yeah. They're calling it one of the top 5 successful rescues of the season. He shoved his hands in his pockets. Because of your medical response. You saved lives up there, Reece. We both did. I stood up. Kai, about what happened in the bivouac, do you regret it? Direct question, no hedging. No, do you? Not even a little bit. He stepped closer. But I need to know, is that a mountain thing? Adrenaline in crisis, and we'll forget about it when we're back to normal life. Or it's something real and we're both terrified because we're disasters at relationships. And this seems impossible. Yeah, that. I looked at him, at his intelligent eyes and capable hands and the memory of 22 hours. Working beside him like we'd been doing it for years. I vote for the second one. His smile could have melted the remaining snow. Yeah? Yeah. If you want to, if you're interested in God, I was bad at this. Do you want to get dinner? When we're both not exhausted and covered in mountain grime? Absolutely. No hesitation. When's your next day off? Thursday. Assuming no callouts, Thursday works. There's this place in Boulder. They do excellent ramen. Are you asking me to drive to Boulder for ramen? I'm asking you to drive to Boulder so I can take you on a proper date. He reached out, took my hand, and maybe find out if what happened on that mountain translates to sea level. Only one way to find out. Thursday. He agreed. Thursday, 5 days later, ramen place was tiny, tucked into a Boulder side street, the kind of spot only locals knew about. Kai was already there when I arrived, wearing dark jeans and a gray Henley that showed off shoulders built by years of backcountry skiing. You're early, I said, sliding into the booth. Wanted to make sure I got the good table. He gestured at our corner spot. Plus, I was nervous. You. Nervous. You navigated a whiteout at 13,000 feet. That's different. That's my job. This is, he gestured between us. This is scarier. First dates usually are. Is this a first date? Technically, we spent 22 hours together on a mountain. That might count as 3 dates. None of those involved ramen. Doesn't count. We ordered too much food. The way people do when they're nervous and trying to impress. Once we started talking, though, the nervousness faded. He told me about growing up in Seattle, moving to Colorado, finding his calling in avalanche safety, about his Japanese-American mom who thought he was crazy for choosing mountains over a stable career, his white dad who'd been a ski instructor and totally got it. I told him about Boulder, about watching mountain rescues as a kid and knowing immediately what I wanted to do, about my family's concern that I picked such a dangerous career, about proving them right every time I came home with a new injury. How many bones have you broken? Kai asked. 6. You? 8. Plus 3 concussions. This might be the weirdest competition I've ever had. Welcome to dating someone who does mountain work. He grinned. We're all a little bit broken, literally and figuratively. Exactly. Halfway through dinner, his hand found mine across the table. Can I be honest about something? Please. I haven't stopped thinking about you since we got off that mountain. Every time I check avalanche reports, every time I'm up on patrol, I think about working with you. How we moved together. How we made decisions together. He stopped, started again. How right it felt. My chest was too tight. I know what you mean. I've been on 3 callouts since Tuesday. Every single one. I kept thinking I wish Kai was here. Not because I needed help, but because working with you made everything better. So this is real. He squeezed my hand. What we're feeling. It's real. Good. He leaned forward. Because I'd like to keep seeing you. If that's something you want, I want that. A lot. I paused. But Kai, you need to know my schedule is chaos. I get called out at 3 a.m. I work 60-hour weeks during peak season. I've missed every important date I've ever had because someone needed rescue. I work the same schedule. I check avalanche conditions at dawn. I'm on call all winter. I've never had a relationship survive ski season. So we're both disasters. Complete disasters. He was smiling. But maybe we're compatible disasters. Maybe we are. After dinner, we walked around Boulder's Pearl Street late spring evening, mountains visible in the distance. Everything feeling possible. When we reached my truck, Kai pulled me close. I had a really good time tonight, he said. Me too. I wrapped my arms around his waist. When can I see you again? I've got back-to-back shifts this weekend, but Monday, I might get called out. Then Tuesday, or Wednesday, or whenever we're both free and not dying on a mountain. He kissed me, soft and sure. We'll make it work. Promise? Promise. 8 months later, winter peak season making it work turned out to be harder and easier than expected. Harder because we were both right, the schedules were impossible. I get called out mid-date. He'd have to cancel plans for avalanche control work. We'd go weeks seeing each other only in passing. Both too exhausted to do more than collapse together. Easier because we understood. When I had to leave dinner for a rescue, Kai just kissed me and said be safe. When he missed my birthday for a multi-day backcountry patrol, I texted him avalanche updates and told him to come over when he was done. We built something in the spaces between emergencies. Morning coffee before dawn patrols. Late dinners after long shifts. Weekends where we both managed to be off at the same time and spent them hiking the same mountains. We worked on, except this time for pleasure. We met each other's families, his mom who fed me enough food for a week and grilled me about my intentions. My parents who were just relieved I'd found someone who understood the work. His patrol crew became my friends. My rescue team adopted him as unofficial avalanche consultant. Then came the February storm. Historic snowfall, multiple avalanches, rescue operations across 3 counties. I was deployed for 72 hours straight, pulling climbers and skiers from various disasters. Kai was running avalanche assessments and ski patrol ops with minimal sleep. We finally crossed paths on our 68, both of us filthy and exhausted at a staging area on Loveland Pass. Hey, he said, looking dead on his feet. Hey, I was in the same condition. You okay? Alive, you? Same. We stood there for a moment, just being in the same space. Before my radio crackled with another callout. I have to go, I said. Trap snowmobilers on, I know. I heard the dispatch. He grabbed my hand, squeezed. Be careful, you too. I love you. Love you too. He kissed me there in the snow with our teams watching and nobody caring because they all knew by now. Knew we were together. Knew we were both idiots who ran toward danger. Knew we somehow made it work. That night, or technically the next morning when we both finally got off shift, we went to his place and collapsed into bed fully clothed. Too tired to even shower. This is insane, Kai mumbled against my shoulder. Our life is insane. Completely. But I don't want to do it with anyone else. Me neither. Good. He was already half asleep. Love you. Love you too. 1 year anniversary. Celebrated our anniversary the only way that made sense. Climbing the same mountain where we'd met. Back to the North Cooler. Except this time in summer conditions, warm sun, clear skies. No avalanches or storms or medical emergencies. At the bivouac shelter now empty and peaceful, we stopped to rest. Can you believe it's been a year? Kai asked, unpacking snacks. Honestly, no. I looked around the shelter. Last time we were here, I was pretty sure I'd never see you again after we got off the mountain. Last time we were here, I was trying to figure out how to ask you out without seeming unprofessional. You waited until we were at base camp and then just asked, because subtle isn't really my thing. He handed me water. Reece, I need to tell you something. My heart rate picked up. Okay, this year has been the best year of my life. And I know that's cheesy. And I know we've spent half of it not actually together because we're both constantly working. But he reached into his pack, pulled out a small box. I can't imagine doing this with anyone else. I stared at the box. At him. At the mountain around us. Kai. I'm not proposing. Yet. We've talked about that, and we both agreed we're not ready. He opened the box to reveal the matching climbing carabiners, high quality, engraved. But I wanted to give you something. A promise that we're in this. That we're doing this crazy, impossible disaster of a life together. I took the carabiner he offered. Read the engraving. Reece, my anchor. K, mine says the opposite, he said. Showing me his. Kai, my belay. Our climbing metaphors, I said, voice rough. That's various. We're mountaineers who met on a rescue. What else would we do? He clipped his carabiner to his gear. So, what do you say? Want to keep being disasters together? I pulled him close. Kissed him there in that shelter, where we'd first admitted we wanted this. Yeah, I really do. Good. He rested his forehead against mine. Because I love you. And I love our insane life. And I love that we both understand why checking avalanche reports at 3 a.m. is foreplay. That's disturbing and accurate. That's us. 1 year after meeting during a mountain rescue. Standing in the same shelter, where we'd fallen for each other. I realized something. Some people search their whole lives for someone who understands them. Sometimes that person argues with your rescue plan and turns out to be completely right. Sometimes they save your life and let you save theirs. Sometimes they're just as much of a disaster as you are. And that's exactly what makes it work. That's not a bad story. That's not bad at all.